Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Claus Connect. It is Monday, May 5th, and we will open this up to the audience and see who we have joining us. Give it a little bit here. Yeah, I don't see anybody on here yet. We're just going, here we go. Hello, Bill and Paul. Thanks for joining us tonight, and Don. So nice to have you here. Betsy, hello. We'll just give it a couple minutes. Hello, Santa Dog. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to have some good stuff. Hello, Bob. Welcome to the Claus Connect. I am Shawn White, aka Mrs. Claus Vintage. And tonight we are going to have a special mystery guest. We do have. I'm going to give you some facts here in a minute about that mystery guest, and we're going to try to figure out who it is. And let's see who else is on here. Hello, John and Jeff. AJ, hello. Let's let it keep going and people getting on here. Okay. So tonight, like I said, we're going to have a mystery guest, and then we are going to take a little bit of a deep dive into business end of the Claus community, and hopefully answer questions and ask questions. Please ask the questions, and the mystery guest is going to help us with the answers. And on next week will be a regular night that I will be interviewing next Monday. So every other Monday, we will have the mystery guest. But you will all I will always post what we are going to be talking about the subject, though. So I think we have enough on here to start with some of the hints, so that you can help me figure out who this is, okay? Number one, this person is deaf in one ear. Number two, they discovered a calling so powerful it reshaped the entire career, their entire career, from the classroom to the Christmas season. Number three, they blend a passion in education, community, and a touch of holiday magic. The journey has been rooted in purpose and driven by personal impact. Beethoven. Good guess, though, actually. Number four, this is one that I wanted to add on here because I've known this mystery guest for a few years, and I really liked this. This person owns a donkey named Dominic, and that would be named after the song Dominic the Italian Christmas Donkey. How cool is that? So do we have any guesses who this might be? Any guesses? We're very quiet. Beethoven is all I see for the mystery guest. Hello, Liz. Thanks for joining us. Okay, I'll give one more. This person is from Ohio. Hello, Ernie. Thanks for joining us. And he is a professor. Okay, I guess we're going to have the great unveiling. Angela, would you open it up to Nathan Vandenbroek, please?
Got it right.
Hey, they couldn't guess it. Nope.
Definitely not Bruce Conway. I am not that majestic. I appreciate the guess, Santa Doug.
Welcome, Nathan. I'm so happy you're here tonight. I really, really am. Please introduce yourself.
Absolutely. So, as Sean mentioned, my name is Nathan Vandenbroek. I go by Professor Santa. That actually came about because I teach at a university, and obviously, I start growing the beard out come January, and my students are excited and for that process, and they started calling me Professor Santa, and I kind of stuck with it. It became my branding essentially. But my purpose for getting into Santa, some know, some don't. I actually, when I was 6, was in a car accident with me paralyzed from my neck down. Had to relearn to walk, talk, eat, and feed myself. The accident happened December 3rd, 1993. I had a younger brother, Tony. He was a year younger than me, passed away in that accident. And during the Christmas season, I spent in the hospital. And my nurses at the time hired a Santa to come in and greet me. He's big and boisterous in a beautiful suit, knew my name, brought a gift. To me, that's always been the Santa for me. And over the years, I've always thought about that. Well, when I had my son, Henrik, 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago now, I'm big on Christmas experiences. So I take him to a Christmas tree farm and all of that. Well, Santa's been in jeans and chainsaw cutting gloves, and it's been less than magical. So I was like, what about the magic for kids? Why have we diminished that? So I was like, I'm gonna go be Santa. I'm gonna try to be this guy that I've always emulated. So 3 years ago, I decided, April 11th, 3 years ago, I decided I was gonna jump into the red suit and see what I can do, and grew my beard out for the first time, and decided it was gonna be my calling for a portion of the year. And it's actually ironic enough, I decided to become Santa, and then I left my job as an accountant. I was actually a CFO of a company and went into education. Part of that was I had not a great experience in university life when I went to college, and I just wanted to offer more of that. So simultaneously, everything happened the same year, and that's kind of brought me to where we are today as the why I am and who I am as Santa.
So tell me what is your title now? What job do you do now?
So I am still just a professor at the university.
Just a professor,
But
that's all.
just that's it. But no, I've actually recently interviewed and was picked as one of 2 finalists for the dean role. I lost out to somebody with a PhD, which is totally understandable. I teach at a generalist education institution, so I'm not required to have a PhD, and I don't have to do research. I can just teach, and that's it. So when they hired Jenny as our new dean, very excited. But I will say all of HR and administration reached out and told me to continue to look for these leadership roles because they see me in leadership at the university in the future, because they see the impact I have and the places I'm going to go with things. But they do know that I want to be student focused, student centered, because that's how we make the biggest impact.
Yeah, and they don't want to lose you, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Definitely. So tell us what topics, what classes do you teach?
So when I first got hired in, they wanted to create a supply chain logistics company, or a supply chain logistics program. I'm sorry. And I was coming from a supply chain logistics company. So like, that's perfect. And then they're like, well, you're an alumni from the university and we know you're Santa. Who better to teach supply chain logistics than Santa? So they're like, we want you to create the supply chain program. So I created the supply chain program based on the core requirements of the university and our accreditation state. But then they're like, when you teach, you incorporate so much of your Santa. Why don't you develop a 30-week course or a 30-class course, which was a 10-week session on Santa and supply chain?
Wow.
So I was able to develop an entire class on Santa and supply chain. So some of the things I teach in that are how Christmas gets delivered worldwide, Elven operations, managing and streamlining Santa's workshop, Santa's workshop efficiency, the logistics of Santa's sleigh, and then mastering seasonal logistics. Those are just 5 of the classes that I have sitting here next to me that I've prepped. But they allow me to teach. So I go in full suit. I don't say anything. I walk in full suit. I log in and I just
wow.
Some of us here in the community know Santa True and even Lee Andrews. So some of the tips and tricks they teach on, I use in class. So I bust out Santa Truth's decks of cards. I'm like, somebody come stand in front of the room. We're gonna do this, like Lion Lemon, or let's sing the Reindeer Macarena, or whatever, just in front of class. It's part of the learning that the university allows me to do. Now, on
Wow.
top of supply chain and logistics, I'm also the head of our economics program, and I run our corporate finance program as well. So
Wow.
many hats.
Yeah. And you know what? That it makes me think because we talk so much about, and we talked today, not we, but Mike talked about character. You have really dug deep with this character thing, like making this whole curriculum. I can't even imagine thinking
Oh
all of
yeah,
that out.
I I have a certification in logistics, and part of that was how do I incorporate this into my storytelling? And so many of the people that I look up to um, are great storytellers, and that's what I wanted to do is bring some form of magic. Well, how do I make it real? How can we present a story that a kid can go look up and then realize there's factual truth in that, but they can't break it down completely. So for me, well, here's the aspect of logistics. Here's how we do these things, and it was just really creating the magic and the truth, but in what we do for the season.
So I imagine that when the kids are critiquing your class after they take it, that you're getting like it's got to be the most one of the most memorable things they do in college. Do you get that kind of feedback from them or
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's some days I'll go in as Professor Vandenbroek, and some days I go in as Professor Santa. But I'm Santa all the time, so I get it all the time. But it's
wow.
funny. The kids are like, guys, he's doing the voice. Be quiet. We're gonna listen to a story, and they know every story I come up with. They hear it first. I get their feedback, and I tell them, I'm like, you guys are all 19 to 24, but really, you guys are just some bigger 5-year-olds. Like, you guys love it just as much.
Yeah.
And it's funny because even colleagues of mine are like, can we come and sit in on your classes? They sound like so much fun. And
That's
it's really, and that's really driven my business as well, because people are like, everyone's talking about you. Or, even personally, just health wise, I work out at the fitness center with the students. They're like, Santa's working out. Why is Santa working out? And it's just comical, and it's relatable. And that's what I try to be, not in both personas, really, Santa and as a university prof.
I absolutely love all of this. And I want to tell the world that you and I met about what 3 years ago was it
You
then
Yeah.
at Charles Howard. Um, and we ended up just kind of buddying around. I don't know why we just found each other. And when we went to the wood shop, is the most memories I have, and the train and checking it all out and seeing a reindeer really for the first time with you. But I remember that I asked you a question about finances or something, or how much somebody must have made or something. And I looked over and you had all the information. You looked it up. I thought, oh my gosh, this guy is so smart. So I just thought I would throw that in there because that's a huge memory that I had.
Well,
It was a
you
great.
definitely are a driving force to who I am, and I shared this with you the other night. I've only ever worked with one Mrs. Claus. It was from a third party because I haven't had the opportunity to work in a setting with you. We've done some video stuff, whether
Right.
it's for TikTok or what have you, and it's really the training, the professionalism. You can see, when you have similar training, similar styles, and similar likings, and right away, you and I have
Yeah.
participated in a lot of the same things, which we banter and work so well. It's just slightly, just slightly, it works. And for you and I, the feedback that I've gained and garnered, I'm just hopeful in the future that again, I'm several hours from you, but I don't think that's not going to stop us from working together. It's just finding the right
Yep.
role, really.
It'll happen. And that is something I've learned that some people you just click with, and personalities like Jeff that I work with in Ohio,
Yes.
and all over Michigan, actually. Like we just get along and it just works and it's easy and it's so much fun. And you just, and that's part of what we talked about at the last show was networking. And when you get out and meet these people, you never know when that'll happen because, that's what we do and you're supposed to have fun at it. So
Oh,
it'll work
absolutely.
out one of these days. So let's go to a question here. We got Santa Doug says, what are some questions that you get from small children that you use logistics to answer and share a story?
Yep.
Can you give
So
us a
that's
story and answer?
a very common one, actually. So I also guest teach at some high schools. Part of my job as a university teacher, also recruiting for my program, I get to guest teach the high school kids. Ask this question a lot as well. So if you think about it, there's roughly 2 billion homes in the world. Okay, and on average, there's about 3 kids per home. Now, that's not to say there's just 3 kids in every home. Some homes have 5, some homes have 1, some have none. So we'll say an average of 3 per home. Okay, and then in order to travel around the world, right? Santa comes down from the North Pole. We follow the time zones. So that means we travel for about 36 hours and we're delivering gifts. But if you think about the number of miles and how far we have to go, we would have to travel. We figure in some areas it's so rural, like where I live currently, personally, it's about a mile to my next neighbor. But in some cities, you go house to house, right? Like we see in Santa movies. So how do we do this? So if we think about the 2 billion homes, 3 homes per kid, on average, each kid gets about 2 pounds of gift per year from Santa. The rest come from mom and dad. So we got to start thinking about what we're going to do there. So Santa would have to visit roughly 3,600 houses per hour, which equal to about 400 pounds after every 50 deliveries, which means we're going to travel over 6.1 million miles, and continue to break that down. So one of the neat things about in the logistics and things, although those numbers are slightly under, in my opinion, I've given those numbers to be significantly higher. It's hard to really track the validity of it. But if you think about the distance and the miles and how long we're going, I know Santa True, when I sat through CPW, he mentioned Santa flies at like a Mach 1400 or something along those lines. And I think it's like 3,333 miles per second, or and I really like that because it makes the kids think, wow, you can do that. How do you eat all the cookies? How do you do all the milk? And it's well, that's where you go into the storytelling, and that's really why I like this question, because within each one of those little bits I gave you there, I have a story I can relate it to buy me some time to continue to get my thoughts back together.
Yep.
So when I talk to them about that, I talk to them about how we have to effectively manage our time, but also think about the countries where they don't celebrate Christmas on December 25th, where they celebrate it on January 6th, so they celebrate it, on the Feast of St. Nicholas. So we have to eliminate those houses as well. So in one night, those are the data I give, but we don't visit 96 countries or 54 countries here and 40 some here, when we look at those things. So we're pretty open to that. Or what about in America, where not everybody celebrates Christmas as well, right? So maybe, for whatever reason. So you got to really play into that. And that allows me more the opportunity to, again, storytell and be playful with it.
So if I was a little girl and you started saying all that, I was like, okay, I believe you. That's what my 5-year-old said.
Because you have to tell enough truth to
Yep.
have them continue to believe, but they're like, well, I don't believe, so
And I do like your thought of like you keep what you know going so that you can prepare to say the next stuff. I don't know how you describe that, but I do that. So I know exactly what you mean.
I mean, I have a lot of practice, again, because I have young kids, and
Yeah.
I tell them several facts in a row so they can forget the first one so I can continue on with the rest. Although, fairly true and fairly relevant. Definitely, it's something they could look up, but may not be able to find a legit answer on per se.
Good point. Excellent point. Okay, let's say hello to Trish is on here. Hello, Trish. Thank you for being here. Jeff. There's Jeff. He said he was going to make it. No games tonight, so I'm happy to see him.
Hendrick's baseball game got rained out tonight, so
yeah. Looks like I've said hello. Linda, hello, Linda Turner. Nice to see you on here. Yeah, it's sunny here all day, surprisingly. I didn't think it was going to be, but rain all day tomorrow. Gotta love Michigan too. Okay, let's see. Let's go to another. This is a question. that I want an answer for too, and I don't know if you know the magical answer. When you're a performer, you've worked a few years just doing jobs, odd jobs. Um, how do you shift from being just like a hobby into being a professional? Do you have any thoughts on that?
So I do. If many of us get into it for whatever the reason. Like I said, my kids was my reason. Create magic. I want to keep the magic for them, keep it alive for them. But some of us, as I go out and coach, but also teach other Santas and other people in the community, it's well, I was fat and somebody said I had a white beard, so here's a suit, right? We've all heard those stories, um, and it's great. But then we start receiving money, we start receiving income. It's just to cover ourselves. Well, then that person tells somebody else, and that person tells somebody else, and eventually we're making a little bit of money. According to the government, I'm going to give you the economic side of it first. According to the government, you if you collect money, you're a business, essentially, right? But that's not necessarily why we do it. We get into it for the reason behind creating the magic, sharing our story, growing our role, whatever that may be, because we feel it in our heart, right? So to take our business, if you will, to that next level, um, again, I follow a fine line with the government that says, hey, because I'm an accountant, because I did so much of this. Um, yes, you accept money, you're a business. Well, the government also says you have to make a profit in order to be considered a business. So I can be in business for 5 years and show a loss, though. That sixth year, I have to show a profit. So, okay, I drive to Atlanta to get my hair done by Missy Boggs, so on the rooftop hair, right? Well, if you look at my mileages from last year, 10,678 miles.
Wow.
Within the state of Ohio, state of Michigan, state of Indiana, where I travel and do Santa, 6,700 of that is just traveling from party to party. So when you think about that, it's an expense, right? So how am I balancing that? Well, we get a lot of cash as well. So tracking that is going to be slightly different than credit cards or business checks or working as a 1099. So taking our business to the next step and really thinking, okay, it's less of a hobby, more of a business, is just however you want to look at that. But the term business scares so many folks. Doesn't mean you have to do a whole lot extra. When you file your taxes, it just goes in as a Schedule C, which is just another line item on your income, with personal income, with the things you do. Whether you're a DBA, you're an LLC, you're a sole prop, or you're just doing it as a fun hobby. So to say, here's this big business term or this big business idea, I'm just doing it because I enjoy it. I am now to a point where I have to, I'm having to claim things and do things because I'm making enough money. But you really don't need to. As a If you're a hobby, if you're only doing a couple jobs a year, and I've heard this several times in the community, like, oh, I only do 4 or 5 things, or I donate my time, and really depends on what you're writing off and what you're claiming and how you're doing that. If you're going to show a loss in your taxes and things, then we need to really look at how we're driving that. But really, to go from a hobbyist to professional, that's on you, and that's how you classify your training and classify what you're doing, how you're claiming income and doing those things. So there's a lot that goes into that. So there's not one clear cookie answer for this. It's really based on you personally.
Okay. I know that when I filed the LLC, it made me feel like I have arrived. I don't know why. Just mentally, I guess. I don't know. It's an extra thing.
So as an LLC is protection, right? We all talk in our industry. It's interesting to me because so many people out there are afraid to file an LLC. An LLC is just to protect you. Same thing getting insurance. Why would you get insurance and not consider an LLC? Right? So it's just protection. So if you're going to do one, you might as well do both.
Right.
Again, with the fees and what have you, it's not a very big fee. I know in the state of Ohio, $50. I did it myself, so there's no additional cost with that, but it's kind of minimal. But literally, the idea is if you want to protect yourself, you get insurance, right? Well, it's the same thing with just filing an LLC. So what you have personally isn't liable if you got sued. Not to say you're going to get sued, but what if?
Right. Right. Okay, we've got to go back. We've got a couple questions here I did not see. Don says 19 to 24, back to the when you were talking about your class. Don't
Mhm.
you have problems with how skeptical that age group is?
Every year, every quarter, every 10 weeks, when I have new students, it's like, oh, wow, Santa's teaching my class and, whatever. And then I start to do, whether it's a little bit of Santa magic or storytelling, and you just see them light up like kids.
Oh,
It's
I love
just
it.
like when we go into a home or go to an event, we got to get some buy, right? We got to get them to buy into us. And with them, it's the same thing, but they truly are still kids. We've all been there, and just bring it out of them. And I'm Professor Vandenbroek. To some, I'm Nathan. To some, I have several kids call me Bandy, but I'm also Santa. And you can see them just change in the room when I walk in my coat, like with nothing prompting it. I just walk in full suit. They're like, it's it's the eyes of wonder and magic. So yeah, they're skeptical at first. Everybody's skeptical at first. You got to present yourself well. And I
It's
think
really cool. I have a thought right now that um, the impact that you're having on this generation, that when they do have children, if they do families, I mean, and maybe you're bringing Santa back to them in a nice, wonderful way. Maybe they all haven't had that or something. So you're spreading the Christmas spirit, right?
we have our university. Our university, we're actually a tech school and a business school. So we have the business college, which I teach in for accreditation reasons. Other than that, we're a NASCAR school. We do NASCAR. We work on NASCARs and we're working on monster trucks for Monster Jam. Well, on the business side, about 95% of our students are international students
Oh,
from all around the world. So Father Christmas and the knowledge behind some of that is really impactful. Well, it's interesting to me because I had a young lady, two young ladies. They just left and graduated. One from Zimbabwe, one from Malaysia. Well, they came back to visit some friends, and they brought friends with them, and they had to come meet me. Well, I
wow.
had shaved and I had white hair. Like, it's Santa, it's Santa. They're like, well, he doesn't look like that. And I go through and tell them the process with the hair dyeing and showing pictures. But then I go into storytelling. They're like, he really is. It's the magic behind that. But all of education, I've found, is how you treat people and how they act, how you respond. It's just like in our calling with being Santa and Mrs. Claus and any performer. It's how you treat people, right? It's what you present. It's that knowledge base. So when I talk to my students, really the reason we go to college is to prove to an employer that we're teachable. Unless you're going to a specific trade like a doctor, a pilot, or what, those things are skilled trades. But like most education is just we're teaching people where we're trainable. But the other side a problem I have with education is education says here's all the information. This is what you need to graduate. Well, all of our employers say here's the stuff you need, but there's a giant disconnect. So
Yeah.
all I've tried to do is bring the two together, and I do the same with Santa. Let's just bring the magic and Christmas and everything together, and just make it relatable, make it real, but make it impactful. We can train all day long on A, B, C, and D, but part of it comes from the heart because you're never going to be able to train on certain situations, certain questions. And I get questions every year that I'm like, I don't know how I answered that, but the answer I gave was perfect. So, it's really just being genuine to what you are, who you are, and how that's being done.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with creativity and the brain. And I think you've tapped into the even with all these numbers and everything that goes on, you're very creative, and you that's a really big thing, part of you. So you're showing them that that's there, and they can feel it and see it, and it's a really good lesson
Oh,
that
absolutely.
takes it just adds. And then whatever they're doing in the future, I would imagine that they're going to carry that with them too, that they've learned from your lessons in the
Oh,
classroom, which is
absolutely.
amazing. I love that. Okay, we have Terry from Stay Bearded on here. Hello, Terry. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Dan from Maps. We love Dan. He's a good guy. Now we're going to take a break and have show who we love for the insurance and boots and all kinds of stuff. So, Angela, if you'd like to do that, we'll take a break. So those boots, those kaboots you just saw, I can't wait to talk to these people. I cannot wait to get a pair. Just got to throw that out into the world. I want to say hello to Deborah, who just joined us, and Sal and Lisa, some of our favorites. Thank you for joining us. Okay, I have the next question. Um, this is something that I hear a lot. I've heard since the beginning, since I started, and there's lots of different answers that are given out. Branding and pricing, knowing your worth and setting your rates. Do you have any suggestions for that?
That's one, in all the Santa communities, we see that. Hey, I'm
Yep.
starting out, or hey, I'm wanting to change rates.
Yep.
What do I do? I know when I started out, I put a picture of me out on Facebook, and it was me in a suit that was gifted to me, but I didn't have a belt on. It didn't look good. But I had several people reach out. Your look wasn't complete. It wasn't right, and up to nothing. Yeah, as performers, we do critique. We critique well, but we need to be conscious of that. But it's unique because I had somebody reach out. Hey, we want you for our real estate office right away. So great. That turned into a home visit, which that first interaction, I figured it out this year. Over 3 years has made me about $7,000. Just
Wow.
because of referrals and contacts and things. And every client I have a path as to where they came from and what's generated from that. I have two big clients, one being that real estate office. That family is very special to me, but then also a school in the Toledo area that's also helped me blossom in a lot of areas as well. But when it comes to rate, I started, I'm like, okay, $100 an hour, we'll start there, right? Well, a couple people are like, well, our last Santa did 3 hours for a $25 Tractor Supply gift card. I'm like, well, times have changed a little bit. I'm
Yeah.
professionally trained, my suit's, very well, what have you. But then I had a big influx, okay, of people asking me to be Santa. I'm like, okay. Started digging around, doing some research, and reached out to some of the people that I really look up to, and that were willing to share with me what they charge per hour. Different area, different type of performer, but it was substantially more. And I got to talking to one of them, Ben Bellhorn, Columbus, Ohio Santas, right? He's in Columbus
Hmm.
area. Um,
Yep.
and I was talking with him about that, and I'm like, Ben, I would like to think I'm an above average Santa, personally. And it's not me being full of myself. I just think I put enough into training, and I put enough into my look and my storytelling, my props. I think I'm above average. Well, he showed me that on Gig Salad, you can search your state, your area, and see the average price of a Santa. Well, in the state of Ohio, the average rate is 150. Ben's like, Nate, you're above average. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I agree. So they take my rate from 1 to 150. I did that for year two, and it worked. But then I'm like, that's just average, though. I'm above average. So I really started to play with my numbers. But what I noticed, I live in rural America. I drive an hour to every gig I have, most times up to two. So when I shared, I put like 6,000 in December last year on my car. I had one day where I spent 8 hours in the car. I did 5 events. Um, so I decided I was going to go up in price again to 175. But my 175 price comes with kind of a personal feel for it, because I tell people, hey, my rate's 175. But what I'm going to do for you, I'm going to discount it by $25, because comfortably 150, I'm comfortable with. I'm happy with that. Knowing my rate's more, it makes them feel good too. Now, I do have a couple clients that year one, I put them in at 100. They have stayed at 100. It's an agreement, and it makes them feel really special about that. I had a client, a big community event here. They put it on at the Coliseum in Lima. They're like, hey, we want you back. I'm like, I share with her, hey, my rate's gone up, but she's like, well, we're limited on budget. I'm like, look, I'll keep you at the same rate. This event was so much fun,
Yeah.
and the outpouring from the community was great. So really, when it comes to who you are, you have to really decide where you're at. Now, I know I am working this year with a group. I'll call them a business group out of Chicago. They wanted me there last weekend or last Christmas. I was too busy. Well, I'm $600 an hour there,
Nice.
and They're putting me up in a hotel and they're booking me out for 2 days.
Nice.
I couldn't do that here in Lima, Delphus,
Right.
at her home because the income's not there. It's a rural farm community. Lima's become more industry based, so some of the events are nice, but I also do a lot of nonprofit work, nonprofit or charity work. So I donate to a group of police officers. I do an autism association, and there's just several things I don't charge for. But again, when I've done those things, they've come back ninefold. And oftentimes they leave a donation, which would be equivalent to my
Yeah.
hourly rate.
Yeah.
So an hourly rate, look at where you're at. And I really dislike that answer because it's not a great answer. But start with where you're comfortable at. I wasn't comfortable at 100. That was too high for me because I knew the community, knew I was the first year, but I did well. And then I grew from there and I grew from there. Now I have people telling me, even some of my clients I've been with for years, like, you should be charging us $250 an hour. I'm like, I could, but it's not about that at all. I mean, yeah, I want to make a little money. I want to supplement my income and pay for all my trainings and hotel stays and suits, right? But it's not about that.
Yeah. I know I started out at, well, somebody told me, know your worth. So when I was selling myself at, talking my way into a job at Cracker Barrel, 75, that was my first time. And I thought, not going to go 100 because this is my first time. And they bought it, like not even blinked an eye at it. And it went really well.
I've used the approach with some people like, well, that's an awful lot. I'm like, okay, how about this? I'll come perform at the $100. Okay. If I exceed your expectations, tip me that additional 50, that additional 75.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. The few times I've done it, I've gotten tipped 2 times my rate. And it's just amazing. They're like, you're right. You are worth every dollar.
And you know what? I started putting that in my contracts. For the ones I've had for a long time, and I really do enjoy doing their functions. I've left the rate low, but then at the end it's gratuities welcome. And then cash is handed over, whatever at the end, which makes up. We don't have to talk about money or anything like that. But that has been my out for, and they value it and it makes me feel good. And it all worked out, thankfully, for a couple different things I do that for. But
I will say one thing I learned this last season that really changed my business. I began using a software many of us use, Kringle Tracker, but I began doing contracts which got me paid before my event. It changed my event because I didn't have to worry about getting money or exchanging of it or having to, close my books for that event or track that down. My money's already there. I got paid today $600 for an event I'm doing in November. She paid in full. And I told her, the retainer is 50%. Well, she paid it in full. So it's changed my business doing it that way. So my due date is 12 hours before the time of performance, typically the night before. Because, hey, if I don't have the payment, I'm not going to be there. And, sometimes last minute, people do that. Will pay me that way. But in some instances, I have to say, okay, day of, it's fine. But there's an arrangement made. And there's an understanding of how this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Is it in a Christmas card? Is it, when I get, as I walk in, somebody that's walking in with me is handing it to me, it's going into a bag, into my prop bag. There has to be a way, and there has to be a set way to do it. So not worrying about money the date of my visit changes the performance. Everything's done. My contracts are done. My insurance is taken care of, and the funds are there. So I can just be there and have fun and be able to be a blessing to them.
My big contracts go out in March, and I get them back by September, paid in full, and it's quite a bit of money. But the reason is if something happened and she didn't want me back, it still gives me time to fill those dates. That's why September's good. It's fine. And the other thing is I usually I check in with everybody about a week before the events so that we talk the money talk then. And then, however they're going to hand it to me, or Venmo me. I like, there's a couple that I've been doing since the beginning, and she usually Venmo me by the time I get home. And it's not a big deal because I know she will. I like Venmo. Way easier. Um, let's talk. Hello, Joseph. Just joined us on here. Cunningham. Very nice. Okay. Let's go to another question here. Talking about contracts and payments, we creating systems for protection and payment. We just kind of talked about that a little bit. Um,
Mike.
do you have anything to add to the protection part of it, maybe? Or
So I know you just mentioned your approach. Send out contracts in March and have them back. Send out contracts. So I sent out a contract today. Like I shared, she paid today. I sent out a contract, and the contract's null and void after 7 days. It doesn't
okay,
matter when in the year. You have to sign it that day. It locks it in, locks in your date and time and everything. Well, with that, the contract's not good until I receive the retainer, which is 50%. Well, that's why I'll send out two contracts, one with the retainer, the one with the remaining balance. Remaining balance, I always tell them, is due the night before the event. Oftentimes, they'll just pay it to get it done.
yeah,
That's helped me drastically. Now, with the retainer, I know there's a lot of talk about retainer and deposits or what have you. Retainer is non-refundable. Now, I have refunded retainer because I want to do the event again, or what have you.
right,
But clients say, hey, it's our fault. Just go ahead and keep it. We know you can't book. And I let them know that. The reason I'm doing this is because I need to cover my schedule. I'll be really honest with the community here. I turned down 119 jobs last year.
wow,
I did about 72. Um,
good
and I
for
tell people
you.
I'm busy. Luckily for me, the university we're done right before Thanksgiving, so I have the freedom to do that. But most of my things are in the evening, weekends. So I let folks know I'm very transparent. I'm blocking this out for you. We're gonna have a magical experience. So when I reach out and ask some more details, kids' names, what have you, it's because I'm gonna make it as unique of a performance as I can for you and your family, and let them know that value. And again, it's just continually coming back to that value you're creating for the family or for the people, the business, or whatever it is you're with. Now, I will say, I only do 2 home visits a year. All the rest are corporate events.
Yep.
And people are like, how is that possible? It's just the way my business has fallen. The 2 home visits I do, well, the one I do every year is the real estate family's home. After I do the office, I do them that weekend. Then this last year, I got called by a family. I was done. I actually hadn't shaved yet, but I always leave the last few days leading up to Christmas. I don't do anything because I have young kids. So the 23rd,
Yeah.
24th, 25th, I don't work at Santa. So the 23rd, I was done that morning. I get a phone call that afternoon from a woman. Their daughter has stage 4 cancer. She's 6 years old. In the community, I'm like, I'll do it for free. I was not in the headspace to be Santa. I was done. I hadn't shaved yet, but I was done. I'm like, well, I'm going to do it. I got everything back out, because I hadn't cleaned everything. It was put away. Well,
Yeah.
I did it, and I as much magic as possible. But it's hard in those situations because it's gut wrenching because they weren't sure if this was going to be your last Christmas or what have you. But it's creating that a little bit extra. Now she's doing great. I saw the family today
Good.
at the ballpark. But it's tough to really distinguish where your business goes, but it's about that value you continue to add and create.
Yeah. Yeah. I only do one home visit myself because I like the big venues, the big, big stuff. Um, and the one home visit is like, I do it with Jeff in Ohio, actually. And we do our homework. Each person there, we buy them gifts. We know what they've done all year long. And like, you can't get anything by us, and it surprises them, and it's wonderful experience. We have to take new stories every year, so it's a little bit of homework involved in it. But that one, it's the one I do, and I really do enjoy that one. But I'm not much for that myself. I like the big crowds and that type of stuff. But
So the one home visit I do, they've never seen the same story twice, never seen the same magic
mhm.
tricks twice. I base everything for the year off of them. Now I've started doing the same thing, making it special. So this 2 years ago, mom's boyfriend was in Okinawa, Japan. He's a Marine. flew back for her to surprise her for Christmas at the family Christmas party. Well, it's great because I was going to do it. Well, in the middle of my visit, Grandma comes up and hugs me, like, he took a wrong turn. Can you add 30 more minutes? I'm like, sure. I keep going. Then Grandpa comes up and hugs me. It's like, he took another wrong turn. It's an additional 20 minutes. I was running out of material. So Grandpa's sitting there singing songs with me while he's getting set up in the driveway in a box. Well, they got to open this last gift. It was him. Well, this last year, what I did is I contacted a company out of upstate Michigan that does scrolls. So what I had printed was Merry Christmas, my friend, which is Twas the Night Before Christmas, but told from Santa's perspective, visiting a soldier in Japan, a Marine in Japan.
Wow.
So I had it printed on a scroll, an extra large scroll, and had like the edges burnt. It was in gold wrapping and everything. And I went into the story about, how important our military folks are and, what have you. And it's really become important to that family because they're now engaged. And I wanted to present it to him. And I read it to him, and like they didn't realize what was happening, but I started to read, I want to read to you. And, I put Jinx away because we did all that, but I had, the special gift before we get to the other gifts. And I started reading, and it took like the third line for them to realize that I'm talking to Jared. And then it was a really cool, touching moment. So for me, those home visits, I try to make them as personal as possible. Now, for somebody that does 50 or 60 home visits, that can be very challenging. But again, I limit my home visits because they're my big bang, really.
Yeah. And they're tough. They're tough. It's like my other thing, that big thing that I do that's volunteer is at the elementary school, first graders. And I usually do that at the beginning of December. That's the hardest thing I do all year. It's just me and first graders. And I always tell myself, if I can get through this without them eating me alive, I'm good. I'm golden for the whole season because they're tough. But I always I spend time with that too. I go in there with like this year we talked about cookies that Santa may get all over the world from different children, different cultures. So that's what I was bringing in a book and talking about that, which was a really cool subject. And I had the teacher with a globe pointing the countries as I would talk, and it was very, very cool. It looks like we have Mike on here. Hello, Mike. And Rick.
So I see somebody up here had asked about some logistics terms. Now, that's very hard to do, but I'm sitting here thinking, as we're talking, I kind of shared earlier a little bit about, how do you deliver in one night, right? What kind of, stories do you get? How do you keep memorable? Now, I have some things written here like lead time, inventory turnover, bottleneck, customer satisfaction, capacity utilization, on-time delivery. All of these terms we've heard in our economy through COVID because of shortages and shipping and what have you, especially now talking about tariffs, again, economics and what I do. Now, when I talk about those things, one of the things I go into stories about are the elves. Well, me, Nathan, Santa Nathan, I have 20,594 elves. It's never changed. That is the last 5 digits of my social security number. I will never forget it. So, but my 20,594 elves. So with that, what I talk to them about is elf production. If each elf can produce 500, it's 500 gifts per hour, on a 50-day cycle. And I go through, again, the math with, some of this, I can tie it back to some of these terms we just talked about, lead time. Well, as soon as Christmas is over, there's only 365 days of Christmas. So we're already behind schedule. If we're going to create all these gifts from around the world, so you start thinking about the math behind, again, how many gifts? If there's 2 billion homes and 2 pounds of gift per home and 3 kids per home, and you do the math, I'm like, well, if they can only produce 500 pounds of gift per, hour, and I give them 50 elves, although I have 20,594, and I try to make them do the math. And then it's just chaos. I'm like, well, it's not important. Just know that we can get it done before Christmas. It's very hard because as soon as Christmas is over, we're already behind schedule. So the logistics of it, truly take your knowledge of what we've gone through in the world the last 4 years with supply chains and COVID or tariffs. And, because those are going to be the questions this year, honestly. Well, what about tariffs? Well, that's great, but Santa doesn't have to worry about that, and why does Santa not have to worry about that? Well, however you want to develop that in your story.
It looks like Jeff wants to know, how do you carry all the packages in the sleigh?
So one of the Steve Gillum's stories, the magic fairy dust, right? So the red make the reindeer fly. I'm love the fact you put me on the spot. So yellow's like smooth, like up and down the chimney. Blue slows down time. I believe it's the green that transports the gifts. It's the same idea there. Well, how does Santa eat 2 billion homes worth of cookies in a night? Well, I can't do that. I'd be bloated and even more fat than I already am. So what I do is when I get to your home and you leave me cookies, I transport them to the North Pole. It's just like when they transport the gifts to me, put them in the bag. I transport the cookies to the North Pole. So when you guys are getting ready to wake up in the morning, I'm just getting back to the North Pole, and me and Mrs. Claus and the elves are having a cookies and milk party. It's wonderful because I can't eat them all in one night. So it's really, just really playing on the fairy dust that Steve Gillum talks on when it comes to, the getting the gifts to me in one night. Yes, cookies and milk party.
Yeah, with Phineas. I'll add this into my stuff. This is really cool. I need some numbers and things on these cookies, though, or something to make it a little complicated, and it'll blow them away when they ask me.
I started to do it calorically, and that just became a headache because then you start figuring, well, there's raisin cookies and and then there's Oreos if you do homemade chocolate chip, and I'm like, that just became way more complicated than I needed it to be.
Yeah. I usually just go with sprinkles too, because I know that when I look at the parents and they're going to have to do a bunch of sprinkles, that they kind of cringe, but I do it on purpose just to, see that, they're like, oh my God, the messes they're going to have to go home to. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Well, I always ask, I'm like, well, you guys know, Mom hides the good cookies. So what kind of cookies does Mom have hidden? And everybody laughs because Mom hides the good cookies,
That's
right?
funny.
So, well, what kind of cookies? Well, those are wonderful. If they're Mom's favorite, they're everybody's favorite. So I always play on that as well.
That's awesome. Let's see. Oh yeah, Jeff does tell them to leave me cookies, because then they'll come down and ask me. He's at the end of the venue and I'm at the other end. They'll come back and say, Miss Claus, what kind of cookie do you want? We'll leave it for you and put a name on it for you. It's very sweet. Okay, so we're talking about all this stuff, all these events going on. How do you personally, even, plus you have a young family, avoid burnout in managing all these events? How do you do it?
It's day by day and taking care of yourself. I know I build in time for the family. Like I said, I could work December 23rd, 24th, 25th. I actually price myself out for those days. And I have a woman every year who wants me at her house at 5 a.m. so her kids can catch me. But my rate for her is $5,125. She has told me year after year she will pay it. I'm like, the problem is you're 2 hours from me. I would have to leave my home at 3. If I'm only there 15 minutes, 30 minutes, my kids would be up before I get home. And then once I get a taste of that kind of money, I'm only going to want to do it, and I'm never going to see my family. So I leave it at that. Christmas Eve, it's church. We have some Christmas Eve traditions. Personally, the kids do a gift. They do pajamas. They do a book. It's personal. So for me, I build that in. And again, I don't do a whole lot of day stuff. So and I don't teach. I'm not working during the day either. I can spend the time with kids or doing whatever it is I love. Some of it's woodworking or building things as well. So really just find time to be myself, spend time with Jessica, my wife, however that is. And it's hard, especially on the days where I get up at 5 a.m., out of the house at 6, at my first visit at 8, again, 2 hours there, an hour there, but then it's 2 hours to get in the car all the way to the other side of the state. I'm back and forth. That's probably the hardest part, but finding the little things that motivate me and keep me going, and to see, I count down in my head all season long how many are left.
I know.
But at the same point, I'm like, wow, already done, or we're already halfway through, and I'm like, the biggest motivation with that is I treat every person as if it's their first and or last time ever seeing Santa. So I have to go big. Yeah, I'm tired. Yeah, I'm hungry. I lose about 20 to 30 pounds during the month of November, December, because I don't eat, because I don't like smells and I don't like everything being right here. But for me, it's what magic am I creating? Who is never going to see Santa again? Who saw Santa for the first time? Who thought maybe I am the real Santa out of all the other Santas, right? So that's how I continue to go, and that works for me.
Yeah. I mean, I get down to I do a lot of driving a lot of driving, and the weather, I just pray every day, basically, please don't snow, please don't blizzard. I only had one blizzard to drive in last year, super early in the morning. But when I get down to the last shift and then the last 8 hours, and then I'm just fighting being sad. But like you just said, nobody would know that because I'm giving it 100%. So, and this last year I was done like I only had a day and then it was Christmas Eve, I think.
Mhm.
And I was dragging. I was so tired. I can't even imagine going much further because by that time, 2 months, I start in beginning of November now. So it's crazy busy. And I
This will
couldn't
be
do it with small children anymore. No way, Jose. No way. It'd be too
right.
much.
So this is my first year not doing Christmas in July. I've just decided that's too much. To maintain the beard for extra months.
Yeah.
It diminishes the health of it, especially getting it bleached and going from a dark beard which has hints of red, which is harder to get white. So I've decided not to do Christmas in July. I do start photo work in October, November, but I try not to bleach again until after the first week of December. So again, when I'm done, Christmas Day it's off.
Yeah.
You know,
Two things. I brag to the children about this is one of my favorite things to do. There'll usually be a redheaded child standing before me, and I'll go through my scrapbook and I'll point out there's a picture of Santa with the red hair from the cartoon.
Mhm.
And I'll go on this whole thing about how much I love that red beard and the red hair. And then I'll point to the little boy or girl's hair and say, it's just like your color. And they just like, oh, it's so sweet.
I love that. So I
And
want
on
to point out
another note,
Mark, not
go
Mark.
ahead.
I'm sorry, Rick. Rick had asked, how do you handle grandchildren? So I'm only 38 years old. Just so everybody's aware. When it comes to grandchildren, I don't. My kids know there's a real Santa. They know I work for the real Santa. Santa just needs helpers. He can't be everywhere. Um, but my kids also know when I look like Santa, I can go into character like this. They'll just walk away.
Oh,
And I don't push them away. They just do it naturally. My wife does it as well. It's because I can break in and out of character at the drop of a hat.
my
So
children still do that and they're in their 20s. They just walk away. They're like, oh God, she's going to get another job. Let's just not pretend we're not with her. Oh, well. Um, let's see. We're at another thing. I'm going to have a Stay Bearded. Terry is going to be on here about beard care, and it's going to be awesome in a couple weeks or
one,
June
he's
2nd.
fantastic
Yeah,
company, great people.
yeah. Let's see what else we needed to cover here. Do we have any more questions? We've answered everything on here. Oh yeah, Betsy said her kids walk away too. She's dressed as a tooth fairy with her children quite a bit. Enters the heart and helps make you what you are. Definitely, Don. That is so true. Um, okay. Do we have any more questions in the audience before we leave and shut this down? I'm going to say, I'm going to ask Nathan to share one key takeaway or piece of advice for the audience today and the viewers. There could be lots of people still going to view this after it's put on YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my motto as Professor Santa, continue to teach Christmas magic. Always create lifelong memories, whatever it is you're doing. So, with that, just think about your cheer, your purpose. Starts there, but then think about those people you're impacting and individuals you're working for. It's the kids, the families, right? The parents are the ones that see, oh, you're 38, or oh, you're a skinny Santa, or oh, you're a tooth fairy, you're a Mrs. Claus, or you don't look like Mrs. Claus, or you're just an elf. And it's not the image we have in our head, but the kids don't see that. They see how you treat them. It's how you talk. Santa, the boots, the belt, the beard, right? It's all of that. So continue to teach your Christmas magic. Whatever your Christmas magic is, you have it, and only you have the magic to teach that. Just remember that you're always creating memories for those families, for those individuals that see you on a daily basis. So keep it up. I'm proud of each of you. I love each of you. So thank you so much for being here and listening. And Sean, thank you for being my friend. I am so grateful for you.
Aw. I love your energy, Nathan, and I always have. I can't wait to work with you someday. Thank you for being here. And um, the whole bottom line that I realize that I'm going to say on every show, it's about the children. And it's about the children's children someday that hopefully we make an impact and bring them joy and good memories and all kinds of good stuff for heartwarming things for them. Um, we have we have one more question. We might as well answer it. I'm in no hurry. Alan says, Alan is from Australia,
Okay.
by the way, great guy. How did you both transition from the early school, home, or local Christmas jobs into the large corporate jobs? I'll let you
You
go.
know, I just put it out there. Hey, I'm available for. And start letting people know, hey, this is what I'm interested in. You tell people what you want to do, others will make it happen. I've always been a true proponent to that. Hey, I would like to work with whatever. People can make it happen. So for me, it was always, allow me to come to your company party. Allow me to come be a special something for your clients. Let them know that it's not about you being there and making money. It's about you creating the magic for whomever it is. Is it an event in town? Um, I got I reached out to a company because hey, I see you guys do this thing every year. I was just wondering if you've ever thought of incorporating a Santa Claus. This is what I would like to do, and it's blossomed. So sometimes all you have to do is ask. The worst thing you can hear is no,
Right.
truly, or no for now, because oftentimes they're like, well, we have somebody, or it's not an avenue we want to present. So come up with a plan. Well, just so you know, this is what it would look like. This is what I'm thinking. Let's collaborate. See how we can do this together. So many of my large jobs and things have just happened naturally, just like a home visit would have. So, I mean, that's the simplest way I can answer. There's really no magic formula, in my opinion.
Mine have came from smaller jobs, and then the networking of those event planners reached out to me. It came back, and then I get the jobs. But I always, and this is a selling point of a Mrs. Claus that I tell, or Santa. I tell the people when I'm trying to get the job, or if I'm working for them, that I'm going to make them look good. The event planners, I'm going to make you look good, and because they do, they want to look good. I get pictures with the boss. Make sure you do that type of stuff, and it grows and you get bigger things. So that would be my advice on that. Okay, one thing before we close, I want to thank Angela for all her help on this show. It makes it so easy and much more fun to do this show and interviews and everything else that goes with this with a good producer behind you. And hopefully I can get her on here at some point too. I would love to do that. She's a great, great gal. Thank you, Angela. So with that, I'm going to thank you, Nathan, and we'll have you back on here. So thank you, and we're going to close out.
Bye all. Thank you.
See you later. Thank you. It was a great show.